All right, Patrick, great to be here with you. Thanks so much for joining us. You've got some data for us over the last couple of months of what's going on at retail. But to break it down real quick, 2019 was a good year. It was strong for retailers and brands. Coming into 2020, it was pretty strong too. But then the pandemic hit. Walk us through what you've been seeing take place at retail between that point.
Yeah, it's been fairly extraordinary. So, as you said, 2019 was a strong year. For the first time in a long time, we saw growth that was above 5% in the channel. And that momentum was accelerating towards the end of the year. So we're coming out of the fourth quarter with, I believe it was 7 or 8% growth year over year for the fourth quarter. And that carried over into 2020. So January was strong, double-digit growth. February was strong, double-digit growth. And even though those are traditionally smaller months, it was still really good to see that momentum. And even the first couple of months of March were really strong. And then, as you said, the pandemic hit, and all the stores had to close, and we saw sales down about 50%, roughly 40 to 50% in the month of March. Going into April, it was closer to 90% down because most of the stores closed, and then we saw quite a bit of a rebound, pretty dramatic, I would say, in May, where we expected things to be better because we were hearing anecdotally that consumers were back in the stores and they were shopping in those stores that were open. But what we didn't expect was that the losses were less than single digits. So we're in the 8% range, which was, if you think about it, that sales in May were 92% of what they were the previous May is pretty remarkable. And then to see it jump in June, now the numbers are still preliminary, but we just concluded a survey. This was our third survey in a row with core shop owners, and what we're seeing is that once final results come in, we expect there to be double-digit growth for the month of June, which is just remarkable from a year-over-year perspective.
Patrick, what are you seeing as far as like the March numbers and the April numbers? Obviously, they were down quite a bit. Are retailers going to be able to make up some of that lost ground for those 2 months in the months moving forward?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. So if certain things continue, if certain trends continue, then they'll be able to make up some of that, right? But it's tough to fill a hole that was created over the course of 3 months. There's no question about it. But we asked retailers about their expectations for the full year, and there are some of them that actually expect to end the year to be up versus last year. Now, those are in the minority, but if the demand continues that we're seeing in the stores, then there could be some ground that could be made up. But I think it's probably too much to expect that overall it'll be flat, especially given the most recent developments that we heard today from our governor.
Got it. Well, look, you got to admire the optimism that's out there, but let's talk about the product too, because there's a shift in the product too. Hard goods are doing well, soft goods not so well. Walk us through what's been going on for the last few months on the trend lines there.
Well, what's been truly remarkable is the resurgence of hard goods. And we actually saw the skate hard good trend, we saw that start in the second quarter of last year. So all of a sudden, from one quarter to the next, we saw over 20% growth for skate hard goods. And we thought, okay, well, what's driving that? What's causing that? And then the next quarter, again, more than 20% growth. And that carried all the way through the end of the year, where we saw, again, 26, 27% growth in Q4. And what we've seen, especially in the last couple months, not only has that skate hard goods trend continued with people skating more, and certainly you can engage in the sport of skateboarding while still adhering to social distancing guidelines. But we're just seeing a lot more people, especially kids and girls and women, picking up skateboarding. So that's really driving that trend. And you combine it with what's happening with surfing, it's really been incredible. And there are a couple of trends that are happening there. I think one of them is that team sports has come to a halt. And so lots of kids that previously were engaged in team sports and they had busy schedules, all of a sudden they have all this time on their hands, and they said, well, I'm just going to give surfing a try. And so you're seeing you're seeing a similar growth for surfing. So to the extent that for the month of June, it could be that we're seeing a doubling of the skateboarding and surfing hard goods categories from this June compared to last June,
Wow, that's
which is dramatic.
yeah, well, that's good news. Look, I think our sports and our industry are poised to benefit from this pandemic in the sense that indoor sports or group activities will probably be hindered, but surfing and skateboarding are individual sports that you can do quite well with social distancing. So I think people wanting to get outdoors is going to be something that maybe they turn to surfing and skateboarding. But let me ask you something else, Patrik, because in the data that I saw, while hard goods are trending up, is there a concern with inventory levels? Because that's got to have an impact on manufacturers or suppliers if there isn't enough product out there, especially not being prepared for this resurgence, so to say, of hard goods.
There's definitely a chasing of inventory that's taking place. There's no question about it, especially in the hard goods space. There are some retailers that have less than a month's worth of inventory for some of these key categories. What's interesting, though, is because at the beginning of the pandemic, what we were hearing from retailers and what brands were hearing from retailers is that they wanted to cut back on future orders. They wanted to consolidate the summer and fall lines, or maybe fall and holiday lines, and so there was a real contraction of inventory taking place in really across all categories. So it's really difficult now for all of a sudden switch gears. And now in the most recent survey, the retailers are telling the brands that, hey, you better make sure you have open to buy inventory available, so we can chase some of these dollars if the consumer demand continues.
Yeah. What else are you hearing from retailers? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. You wanted to address some of the other categories. So surprisingly, for both apparel and footwear, we're seeing and accessories where there's the potential we'll see positive year-over-year growth for the month of June. So while it's not as dramatic as what we're seeing on the hard goods side, the demand for some of the soft goods categories has been surprising as well. So really, everybody's chasing inventory.
Yeah, it sounds like that. From the retailers that I've spoken to, they've said the same thing. They're chasing inventory, but with supply chain disruptions happening, brands are also a little cautious with the inventory that they do have on hand. They want to make sure that they can ride it out for a little while too. Does it seem like the brands might be wanting to hold on to some of that inventory for some direct-to-consumer business and fatten up their margins?
Well, possibly, right? There, you could argue for that, but I think there's some that say, well, the demand is there now, so we might as well take advantage of it, because we don't know what's going to happen when the consumer stimulus ends towards the end of July, sort of the August timeframe. So I think there's a concern both for retailers and brands that the demand and the ability to purchase, that spending power will decline once we get past the consumer stimulus. So I think there's some level of caution there that not everybody wants to go all in again.
Yeah, it kind of definitely concerns me as well with some of the stimulus money that's out there. It's great that it's in the hands of consumers, that they are using it, but I also kind of think, is this a sugar high? What happens when that stimulus money runs out, and will consumers still have some of that funding to cover any of the other things that they might need as well, or have they kind of spent it on some of these outdoor goods, which is fine. Look, I think the stimulus is good because it puts money right back into the hands of the community as well. It doesn't kind of get floated up and thrown away into some distant land. What are retailers looking on as far as safety measures? How is that working out at retail? What are you hearing there?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's really remarkable how they've been able to shift their standard operating procedures, as well as just how they go to market seemingly overnight. And so you're seeing a lot of them that now require masks. They've put up plexiglass or other barriers at cash out. Some of them have temperature checks that they have in place. Some of them give free masks and free gloves to to customers. So there are a whole host of measures that they've seemingly implemented overnight. Sanitation stations in front of the stores and throughout the stores, 6-foot distance markers that you see everywhere. So it's really remarkable to see what changes they've implemented really in a couple months.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they're taking the right steps to ensure that their business isn't disrupted again, because I don't think there's an appetite to shut down the economy again. And I think if that did happen, I think it would be devastating for a lot of businesses, just not retailers in our industry. Patrik, there's a lot of great information that you sent over, and we haven't had a chance to go through everything, but anything that really kind of is something you want to get across, a big highlight or anything?
Well, really, if you want to think of the last 3 or 4 months as a roller coaster ride, it really started in say March, April timeframe with retailers thinking and brands thinking about, okay, am I going to survive? I don't know what is going to happen. Will we be able to open the stores again? If we do, will consumers be back again? And that has just shifted entirely to now. Just about all the retailers that we've surveyed saying, yeah, we're going to survive. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but with everything that's happened, all the adjustments that we've made, we're seeing that for the most part, they're in a much better financial position in terms of their cash on hand and a confidence that they'll be able to weather the storm. So that was a big concern for us as this pandemic started. So now it's really about, okay, are the brands able to adjust, and are the brands able to overcome some of the challenges they have from a revenue perspective and some of the other channels that perhaps represent larger volumes for them, and with the mall stores closing down again here in California, I think that presents a big problem for some of the brands, especially the apparel brands.
Yeah, sounds like it. Look, a lot of great information that you've got, and it's great to hear that retailers are exercising some resiliency and they're finding a path forward. If folks wanted to get their hands on all this data that you've sent over, what's the best way they can get that?
Just reach out to me directly at Patrik@ActionWatch.com, and if you want the full results of the survey, I'm happy to send them to you. We actually have 3 surveys that we completed over the last 4 months, and it provides a compelling picture of the roller coaster that we've all been on together.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Patrik. I know you're going to be talking to us again at least once a month with this data that comes out. So we're off to a great start. Thanks for sharing all this information, and we'll be back in touch soon.
Thanks, Hype. It was a real pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Patrik.
Okay, bye-bye.